Welcome to the Sheko Dynasty.
Hello everyone, it has been a minute, but I wanted to come on here and create something for creative people because I feel in my life I'm going through some kind of creative reset in terms of just peeling back away the layers of everything that I've been building and working towards. And my life is rearranging itself constantly. So when you don't have clarity around your situation, it's always an invitation to, go inward and to just deepen your relationship with God and this creative source that is orchestrating all of this. And I think I'm at the point in my life where I'm not really worried about what's next. I'm also so oriented with my self and connected with myself that I'm not overcomplicating the process by overanalyzing my decisions or what decisions to make. I just feel intuitively, okay, this is what is happening, this is what I'm feeling, and it informs me of what my options are or where I'm gravitating towards. So this is what I think creative people and just people in general, but I'm also addressing creative people because we're talking about, being able to exist as a creative person and cultivating a career and infrastructure for creative people to be able to have sustainable creative lives. So a part of that comes down to your own navigation system, your own well-being, and the foundation you build for yourself. So it's really important that you get to a place where you're not constantly in your head about what decision to make next. If you feel like you don't have clarity about what's going on in your life. So this is why I want to also present this resource for you so you can connect with yourself and take the time to discern what is true and what is not, what we can add to our lives, what can remain, and what needs to be removed. So this is like a creative reset. This specifically has come to me at a time where it's the middle of the year and I spent about 4 months in Poland, and that was a very enriching experience. But now I'm back in Australia because I had to pivot and, even physically removing myself from situations, I feel like that also has synchronized with me pivoting in a creative sense. Not that I'm neglecting or not completing my projects or what I'm working towards, because that is still remaining the same, but it's like pivoting in terms of just the perspective that I have in the process of creating and changing some of my offerings or changing some of the ways that I'm doing things, but at the foundation of it, it's still working towards my vision. I want to go through a few things today with you that will hopefully help you, center yourself and keep you at your core and help bring some clarity in your life so that you know what actions to take next. Even if it isn't too far in the future, you just kind of know, you just kind of are aware of what your options are right now in terms of what you could do regarding your creative journey. The first thing that I want to talk about is this idea of embracing the non-linear journey as creative people. And it depends on who you are and your personality type and, your own specific blueprint. But this is generally speaking. Some creative people are more prone to having a very non-linear process when it comes to their creativity. And that's something that I personally identify with. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have structure, that you don't have discipline. It just means that the process and the relationship you have with life, it is synchronized in a very different way. So if you find yourself trying to force certain things, trying to be more disciplined, I want you to really think about what this concept of discipline means to you. And I would say that I'm a very disciplined person in the sense that I am always oriented towards the highest good of myself and my soul. So discipline doesn't mean to stick it out in certain situations if you feel like you're way overdue, you don't belong in certain spaces, and you're just like have a lot of ego and pride that you have to finish this certain thing, because that actually may be a disservice to you and your process. So you really have to think about what this means to you, not what discipline has been taught to you as, that it's this very rigid and overly structured thing. Because I feel like the higher aspect of discipline is you staying true to yourself. So it's a very nuanced thing, and I'm just going to leave you with that for you to ponder on what that is. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because sometimes we're learning things and we're actually developing. Sometimes we don't feel like we're having tangible progress because the process can be so non-linear, and you might go through increments of I'm developing this aspect of me, whether it's creative or non-creative. And so you almost feel like sometimes you're jumping between different things. But I want you to release any shame that you have around this aspect of your creative process. If you feel like you are someone that leans toward a non-linear relationship with time, because it doesn't serve you to harbor this shame around your creative process. You're actually limiting yourself and your creativity because you have these feelings inside of you that you have shame around your creativity. Like think about that. You have shame around your creative process and your creativity. Why do you think that is putting you in a state of receptivity to create even more, to create things that you love, if you have this underlying energy where you're constantly resistant to yourself and the natural ways that you work? So that's an important point. So we're clearing this shame, releasing any negative feelings around your creative process, the way that you do things, the way that you learn, releasing this shame about learning, releasing this shame about how you are individually developing, releasing any comparison that you have about yourself with other people, whether it's age, whether it's where people are at in their career. That's not relevant to you. You can use these things as a reference. Like, wow, this person is so inspiring. I admire this person. We can use it that way. But as soon as it starts to form a negative self-perception and you start to relate to those thoughts too much, you got to grab those thoughts and either drop it, stop those thoughts from creating further narratives that seep into your being, because that's not being receptive to your own creative power and source, because you're constantly letting the external world dictate how you are meant to show up in this world as a creative being. So let's slow down and realize that we can take our time with this process. The next thing I want to talk about is, since we are in the middle of the year, what ways have we grown? And I want you to write this down and see it tangibly on paper. Because, there's so many things that you go through and you're advancing in these ways, especially if you're someone that's self-aware. It's not only what's changing in your physical circumstances, but the ways that you're changing internally. Like, what ways have you grown? What lessons have you learned? What aspects of yourself have you actually seen change in? This can be creative or non-creative aspects of you. It can be tangible or intangible. It's acknowledging all aspects of your multidimensional self. The next prompt I have is, what have you realized? What are your most recent realizations and how do they serve you? This could relate to, what have you realized about your relationships? What have you realized about yourself as a creative person? Where are you limiting yourself? Have you had these profound realizations? I'm sure that you have, because the creative process is so activating to your internal world. The creative process is conjunct with your self-awareness and your growth as a person. So as you express certain things, your stories, the things that you've been through, you have an awareness of these things in some capacity, and you are expressing it. And it's a reflection of your lived experiences and how you perceive this reality. So that's really important. What have you realized and how can it serve you creatively, or just, the way that you're existing and moving? One thing for me that I can really see clearly about myself is how much clarity I have in my life. And that's something that I'm really proud of. Because, previous versions of me would tolerate certain things. I'd be unsure or unclear about my personal boundaries, or not values, but in the way that I would implement my values within the relationships I have. I'd just tolerate certain things. I know that will serve me in the future when I'm developing certain infrastructures, certain business developments, or the ideas that I have around what I want to give to this world. That's going to serve me in terms of how much integrity the spaces I create hold. This clarity gives me more capacity in order to make better decisions for myself, to make better decisions for the people around me in terms of what I can contribute, how I can guide people. Most of this year, I haven't really been doing much creative stuff. I've just been experiencing life. I've been in Poland, seeing different family dynamics play out, friendships, all these things are resources that you can use to not only develop your creative self, it's the foundation you have as a creative person, so that when you are creating your art, it's not only just the expression, it's everything else that is behind the expression that is influencing what is being created and the systems around what you're doing. So now that you've created more awareness about what is going on in your life right now, where do you feel like you need to pivot? What have you been working on that perhaps you feel a little bit stuck on, or things aren't progressing in terms of the momentum, or what doesn't have momentum behind it right now? Maybe it did previously, but what feels like it's kind of shifting and you're being asked to shift. So maybe it's a thing that in essence You can still work on the same things, but maybe you're shifting the way that you are relating to the thing or the way that it's being presented and expressed. So listen to these things, these little nuances in the way that you are growing as a person and what's being asked of you right now. Also, to add to this point is like, where do you have resistance to pivoting? Is your ego saying, oh, I have to finish this thing because this is what I said? Is it coming from a place of, I don't have energy, or it's just like a temporary moment of not feeling connected to what you're doing? Or is it that you're actually forcing yourself and pushing yourself into a direction where something just does not have the momentum it needs at the moment? So that might be your sign that, okay, maybe it's time to pivot or just reframe the way I'm doing something. It doesn't matter if you decide to pivot in direction, because it actually just might activate another phase for you or another thing to develop that's more important right now, spiritually speaking. It may just be a temporary pause or deviation, and you might come back to it later at another time. So try not to create narratives around the way something has to happen, because if you're truly connected to yourself and your core essence and God and creative source, that energy is always going to orient you towards what you're desiring, because that desire is not a superficial thing. It is coming from a really deep and sacred part of you. So this is where you need to have discernment and actually honor the ways that you are shifting your intuition. So yeah. And the last point is, what are you energetically aligning to? So this is a point where you need to be honest with yourself. What do I have energy for right now? What do I not have energy for right now? And look at the aspects of your life and realize what is serving me and what is not in this moment. And it doesn't mean you have to be extreme in the way that you remove something. Maybe you do. Each situation calls for a different way that it needs to be handled. So that is up to your discernment. It's really just being honest about where your energy is at and not trying to make excuses like as to what your needs are. A part of cultivating your creative power is accepting what you need and not being ashamed about what you need as a creative person, as a human being. And in order to be able to receive more creative blessings and express the things that you want to and create the profound pieces of artwork that you desire and is inside of you, and that you have the capacity and potential to create, it means not undermining yourself and the space that you're taking up as a person. I notice a lot of creative people undermine what they're able to receive, how people receive them, how people receive their art. And it's all just noise. What's more important is acknowledging, this is where I'm at right now. This is what I need. You deserve to be held, to exist, to create the life that you want to. And it's just being honest about where you are right now and using that prompt or that tool of the present moment to keep aligning to more of yourself, to more of your expression, to more of your creative essence. So that is what I want to leave you here with today. And I hope this has helped in some little way to, create more intentional awareness around where you are right now, but also help you align with more of yourself and the direction that you want to go in and the life that you're building for yourself. And just, taking up space as a creative person and not being ashamed. All right. Bless.